It's happening. All right. So here we are, guys. The cast and team, some of the cast and team, some people are missing, for the Quality of Life, which we were slated to do in the 2020 season, early in the 2020 season. And now it's a whole new year, and here we are, and it's actually happening. So I guess first thing we should do is like tell everyone who you are and what your involvement is, either at the Playhouse or with the show. Since everyone's in a different order, I'll say Nathan.
Hello, like Sarah said, I'm Nathan, and I am playing the role of Neil.
I'm Katie, and I played the role of Dinah.
My name is Chris Polk. I played the role of Bill.
My name is Sarah Kay, and I played Jeanette.
I'm Julia Ritchie, and I stage managed.
I'm Scott Grinstead. I'm the technical director at the theater, so I built the set and ran the tech.
I'm Greta Lambert, the managing director and just general Playhouse groupie.
And I'm Sarah, and I directed the show. And you'll notice throughout this Zoom that, and these guys are very used to this, my assistant director, Oliver, has been very much a part of this rehearsal process with all of us. But Zoom at home requires lots of peanut butter to keep him quiet so that we can all rehearse or speak. So that's what that is, as you see that throughout the evening. So yeah, I guess here's my first question for everybody. How are we feeling now that it's about to open tomorrow?
Well, I will say that we've all been in theater our whole lives, and I'm sure, I would imagine nobody's had an experience quite like this one was. Having to go on hiatus for almost a year, come back, get your character harnessed again, and then learn your lines all over, and it was challenging, no doubt about it. So I'm glad that we pulled it off.
Yeah, I think I feel, even though the process was very, very different than any other process I've been through, like Chris was saying, I think I feel the same though. There's a bit of relief that it's over. There's a bit of sadness that it's over, and there's a bit of what did I do with my life before this show that I'm relearning, especially my evenings.
I think there's an excitement that it finally is able to be shared with the audience. Again, it's different kind of sharing with an audience, but that we're at that moment where we worked on something, and now we get to give this to other people, and hopefully they enjoy it and we get good feedback.
It's definitely great to be, when we finally got back into the Playhouse building. I know a lot of memories, and all of you guys have been in the Playhouse for years. So a lot of memories surged back, and it was great after a year of not being there and a year of doing the show, and every night a week running this show and doing it over and over and over and over and over again. It was nice to finally do it in person and finally get to feel the energy that the Playhouse just has.
Well, Scott, talk a little bit about your journey with this show. You had a slightly different experience than those of us Zooming every night.
My experience is still ongoing until we are live with the show. This was this is a show that I've not sat in on every single night, but it's a show that I've been a part of, like you said, for over a year because of pre-production meetings and sitting down with designers and trying to come up with concepts. And then we started building the show, or we prepped the building to build the show, and the pandemic hit. So this is the first show at the Playhouse that I had to build by myself with no help because we couldn't bring people in. So, and it was a weird experience to build it alone, but it was also weird because we didn't know how long the pandemic would last at that time. So I was frantically trying to like have it ready in case we were ready to get it up on its feet. And then a year passed. So, and then having to revisit it and make sure the set was still functional and ready to go after sitting there for so long. And then now I'm in the process of the final edits to make sure that the video looks and sounds and flows the way that it's supposed to be. And we're 24 hours out. So I'm still working on the show. You guys are home and resting.
That has been sort of like a feeling for me as well, because we've been in, planning this season 2 years ago. Production meetings trying to make this all happen, and then it was a lot of like hurry up wait. It felt like false starts just constantly, and that stress of when do we need to be ready and how long is this going to happen, and the worry that goes along with it, and is it silly to even keep rehearsing, and all of that has been quite an emotional roller coaster. So I guess my next question for you guys is like, what do you think about the play itself, about these characters, about the story might ring a little differently with our audiences after this last year that we've had versus if we had just done it normally a year ago?
Well, I think the characters are, they're so individual, there's only 4 of us out there, and everybody's very different, and with such a strange process of us. I mean, I've worked with Sarah and I've worked with Nathan before, and I've never worked with Katie. I auditioned with her, but we didn't get to work together for a year. And I think that the show was so well written and so defined character wise and message wise that it fell into place better than it should have. I mean, we had everything in the world going against us, but the show works.
I definitely think that 2020 made everyone in the world kind of refocus on quality of life, on their own quality of life. So yeah, I'm hoping that helps audiences connect with it.
Yeah, I find them they're all going through this extreme they've all had these really extreme things happen to them, and which helps the play stand alone without a pandemic. And then with a pandemic, literally kind of everybody is going through an extreme circumstance. And so it just adds another layer to the message.
I think 2020 for me, it sort of drove home the importance of community. Even, I would have described myself as a loner before 2020, but I found out that's not really true. I didn't actually really like being alone in my house. And so it helped me to view the play in terms of 4 people who were really desperate to build a community. They needed that. They needed to see a reflection of themselves. I think they needed to see other people like approving their choices. And I don't necessarily think I would have picked up on that if we had just, had an easy 2020 and done the play as planned.
I think what's beautiful about it is I discovered this play over a decade ago, and I thought at that time, this needs to be produced because some of these conversations and some of these ideologies are things that people need to be talking about and need to have conversations about and difficult conversations about. And that was, 10 years ago. And now that everything that has happened in the world, all all of the things that we have found out about our neighbors that maybe we didn't know before make these kinds of conversations necessary. And I was saying today while editing, there's something likable about all four of these people. They all have something that really draws you into them and their thought process, whether you agree with it or not.
Yeah, that's something we talked about very early on in this process, right? Of that there's no bad guy in this play. Everybody's going through their own experiences and channeling it their own way. And as the play goes on, you start to realize that things that were maybe a little off-putting in the beginning about a character you start to understand why they're approaching things from the way that they are, and that's how they're channeling what's happening to them. Doesn't make them a bad person. You know what I mean? There's no villain in this play. Everyone's doing the best that they can with what they've got, you know? Well, Greta, when you joined the Playhouse team not that long ago is when your first experience with the play. What did you think when you first read it versus now having been through the bizarro rehearsal process that we just went through?
I think what someone said earlier about the characters, how individual they all are. And I loved seeing the two marriages and the dynamics between the two couples. And of course, like any play, it just comes to life when real people are saying it, as opposed to when I'm reading it to myself. I enjoyed reading it, but to see the work, it just brings it to life.
Will you guys talk about them? I don't want to give away, because this is a play that not a lot of people are going to be familiar with. So there's going to be that genuine surprise and learning along with the characters. So, but can you guys talk a little bit about your characters and sort of their relationships and their marriages, and coming into the play, how you approached finding out who these people were?
Well, I will say this, that the characters are so defined, and everyone that watches the show can identify with these characters. They either know people like them, they used to know people, they have people in their family like them, and in finding the nuance in these characters, because they are, like you said, at the beginning you see a certain type of character, and that character grows on you a little bit, and that's with all four characters do that for the audience, and as a performer you gotta dig that out a little bit, and it was fun. It was fun to see your characters' flaws and your characters' qualities, and how that grows, and then how you get that across to an audience. So I think everybody watching the show will have a lot of fun identifying with these characters, negatively, positively, or however it happens for them.
Well, my character is a college professor, and I'm a college professor, so I definitely tapped into that. Of course, Neil is much smarter than I am. He uses a larger vocabulary than I do, but it was fun to. It's very rare as an actor that you play someone who is in the same occupation as you are, so that was interesting. Obviously, he's ill, and so dealing with that and trying to channel that and what comes with being ill was fun for me. I liked exploring that, not ha-ha fun, but still fun as an actor to explore that. And then, like Greta was talking about, I really loved the relationship that he has with the other, with first of all his wife, but I really enjoyed the relationship that he has with his cousin-in-law as well. And I think that as the play unfolds, you learn that those two characters are much more alike and have a lot more in common than on the surface and what you see at first. That was a fun discovery as an actor as well throughout the process.
I think my character, Dinah, she embodies a lot of what I think of as like traditional conservative, like Christian American woman, and she derives genuine satisfaction from some elements of her life. Like she genuinely loves making things from scratch and giving thoughtful presents. But I think there are other parts of her life where she's just going through the motions, and she's sort of trying to. I guess she's hoping that if she keeps pretending, eventually it will be real. Like she'll derive real comfort and real satisfaction from parts of her faith that aren't really doing it for her right now. And I think I really enjoyed being Dinah and visiting my cousins on the West Coast and trying out a different way of thinking, and being a part of their philosophical discussions, even if it's just a little interjection here and there. I think Dinah had a really good time trying on a different lifestyle, even if it was just for a little bit.
Yeah, the challenge, as Jeanette was very free-spirited and abstract, and I'm very linear, and so that's fun to be that different, which is very very loose and accepting of kind of everything. But what I really liked about all of the characters is how they still would confront each other with things that they disagreed about. They didn't shy away from having difficult conversations, and it really showed how much they care about each other. And I think that's just was such a great observation to make, that people who, despite their differences, you choose to have these difficult conversations because you care. And I really like that about all of the characters.
You, Julia, you've been watching this since day one and learning along with us.
I think it's really interesting how, all the characters, you first meet them and they're so, you stick them to a stereotype. We have the college professor, we have the cousins from out west, the very conservative Christian cousins. And the further that you get into the play and the more that you delve into the world that has been created, the more you realize that they're more 4D than that. Like they're not just 2D people on a piece of paper. And and that's with like all stereotypes. And I love hearing from all sides. I like hearing from all sides of an issue. And so even the tough conversations that they had in the show, I thought was extremely important, and also like just really, really interesting to hear from. We have a conservative, and we have a professor, and we have a person that wants to travel and all of that. So, and it gets deeper the more that you hear it. I've heard this show a bajillion times. I've read this show a bajillion times. It's been like a year plus in the making of listening to the show every single night. And it gets old after a while. But then it gets old after a while.
Glad we could be of help.
But then you get in person and it becomes more real, and it becomes even greater. And this cast is absolutely incredible. And I love every single one of you, because you each brought something new to the table. And at first you bring one thing to the table, and then a year and a half later, we have deeper insight, and especially with the pandemic, we have even more insight into these deep passages. And I just think it's incredible that no matter how many times you hear the show, you can always find something else that you didn't pick up on at first. So that's it.
I mean, the first time I read it at Scott and Sarah Kay's urging, they said, you got to read this one. This feels like just the right message for what we were trying to do with our season last year, which was to see through another person's eyes, the season of seeing from perspectives you may not always see from, or hearing from a perspective that you maybe just never would agree with, and so you just don't even engage, that sort of a thing. The whole theme of the season was sort of surrounding that, and so Scott was, yeah, this is it, this, you got to read it. And I just fell in love with it instantly for that very reason, because I like to think I'm a pretty open person, and I like to hear all other people's perspectives and try to be empathetic and compassionate to those that are different from myself. But when I was reading this play, I thought going in, I felt very strongly about a lot of the issues that they talk about. And as I would read, I was like, that character just made a really good point that I've never really quite seen it from that angle before. Did anybody else have like a similar experience of, I've never thought of that argument on that issue before in quite that way?
I think definitely. I mean, and it changed every, it seemed like every actor found something new every night. I know I did, and I think if we'd rehearsed it for 3 more years, we'd have kept finding something new, and
Julia would hang herself, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Julia, we wouldn't have made it through. But yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I think when people are watching the show, they too will kind of go through that metamorphosis, if you will, where you follow along with these folks throughout the show. So interesting, no doubt.
Well, so it's tough because we don't want to give away any of the big stuff, but what are some of the messages that you hope that the audience takes away from seeing it, especially since a lot of people may not be familiar with this story? What are sort of the overall themes, messages that you hope people that watch take away?
Well, not to be too sappy, but because it's a line from the play. People move on, but that doesn't mean it wasn't fun while it lasted.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's however long the play is. I mean, people go through a whole lifetime in this show. I mean, it's like this comes full circle, and I think that it speaks to the audience. I mean, it's an intense show. It's an intense show, and you kind of leave it all on the field once it's all said and done. To use a sports analogy, but I think that the audience will. I hope that they will take a deep breath and exhale after the show is over. Like it has that feel to it. You're like, whew, what did I just watch? That kind of a thing. And those people are intense. So I think everybody will have a good time watching the show and, see a little of themselves in all of these characters, I think.
I think one takeaway that I've gotten from it is that we all really want easy answers and easy solutions. And there are none. Just because you want it doesn't mean they're there to be had.
I would hope that people go away and have some conversations. Even if they're different conversations than the ones that are had in the play, maybe that's not something that somebody's willing to go there, but I hope that it sparks some conversations for people after they watch. There's a beautiful conversation between Chris and Sarah's character in the second act, where Chris says, we're not the only ones who are hurting. And I think that's a huge takeaway that we need to remember, that it's okay to hurt, but we're not the only ones who are hurting. Our neighbors are, and the people around us are. And I think that's a big takeaway.
Well, especially after the year we've had, right? I mean, that's why I think, this play is not set in COVID times, and Jane Anderson set it in the present, which for us happens to be COVID times. But it felt like even more appropriate now. It just felt, we lost Greta.
Yeah, it rolled very naturally, masks and all. It really did. It fit right in, no doubt.
Talk about that a little bit. I mean, I guess after this last year, maybe more people than before had mask acting experience, but talk about what that was. I mean, this was a very bizarre process, and you know, some people may not know what a normal rehearsal process would be like, but talk about sort of the things in the process that were more challenging, things you had to learn to navigate. Talk about those things.
Just being more aware of, you do this anyway, but we even talked about being more aware of articulating behind a mask than you would anyway, which, you know, you over articulate in theater to be heard and understood, but then when you add a mask to it, you're even more aware of making sure that you're being heard and understood. So that was just another thing to add to it.
I think we're in a way that since we did take the hiatus, that, you know, we as Americans have learned, and I guess as Earthlings have learned to wear masks all the time. And so it wasn't like we just hopped on stage and had to put a mask on for the first time. Everybody is pretty accustomed to wearing masks and getting their point across and seeing other people in masks. And so, as odd as it is, it was very natural feeling to, you know, strap those masks on every night and rehearse and because you've been wearing them all day in your regular life, you know, and it's just a sign of the times and something that none of us will ever forget, but it works.
Yeah, I think for me, and maybe because of what Chris was saying, that, you know, at this point we had 9 months of wearing masks. I think the biggest, I don't know if it's a challenge, but the most different part of the pandemic for me was staying the 6 feet away and not touching the others on stage, you know, because of course in actor training, you're always taught to find moments to touch the person and find moments to hug and connect. And so I think that was the biggest, I don't want to say disconnect, because it's not what happened. Actually, that probably made us have to connect even more, because we were overcoming the idea of we're staying away from each other but still trying to have these intimate moments. So learning an avenue of still connecting with the other actor on stage and having a honest moment, but staying away from them. I found that interesting.
What would you like to leave us with as we are about to open tomorrow?
I just want to say that the commitment that was required to get this show off the ground was indescribable, and everybody was on board 100%, and it was just such a thrill to work with everybody, so talented, and not, you know, not everybody could get this thing off like this cast did, and so it was very refreshing and a lot of hard work, and so everybody did a great job. So thanks, no doubt.
If you take anything away from the show, listen to the other side. Nobody is truly a villain in the world. We all are going through our own trials and errors, and be kind.
Yeah, I think it's worth, though, you know, Chris talked about people have worked really hard, everybody, the commitment level, and so I just encourage people to watch. It's worth it. It's a great story, and it's definitely worth your time, and not just for entertainment purposes. So
I mean, I hope everyone enjoys it. You know, we do art and theater for so many different reasons, but you know, I think one of the ultimate endings for that is to entertain, and so I certainly hope we are entertaining to the audience. And yeah, For those who do watch it, thanks.
I feel bad. I feel like, I can only echo the very articulate thoughts that people have just put forward. I hope everybody who watches it enjoys it. I've enjoyed having this as part of my life, for 2020. I'm grateful for that.
Well, I'm very grateful to all of you because this was an incredibly unusual and drawn out and stressful at times process, just based on the weird circumstances in which we were trying to tell this story. And I'm beyond in awe of all of you at your commitment, at your passion and hard work to make this happen in spite of all the obstacles that were thrown at us, at you. I couldn't have asked for a better group to have this crazy journey with. So I'm very grateful, and I'm most excited for other people besides me to get to enjoy all of the fruits of your labor and watch your talent and experience this beautiful story. Finally. Scott, you have anything?
No, I hope the show, I'm one of the few people who's gotten to see it so far. So I do hope people enjoy it. I hope it brings a level of empathy and understanding, which doesn't require agreement. You can disagree and still understand one another. And I hope that's what people walk away with. But I would say, watch it with your tissues. Watch it with your tissues.
Absolutely. Watch it with your tissues. Well, thank you all. I'm grateful that you were willing to get back on Zoom. We've been Zooming quite a bit over this last year, but thank you for hopping back on Zoom. And I just missed you. This is a selfish venture. But I hope that you all just sit back and enjoy, and I hope our audiences get to support the Playhouse and watch this beautiful story. And well done to all of you. Bravo. We did it. We're opening.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Enjoy the show.
All right. Happy editing. We're almost there.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.